A few years ago, David's friend looked at his finances and told him he was doing almost everything wrong. He wasn't paying off his mortgage early. He was hiring people to do chores he could easily do himself. He wasn't tracking his spending down to the cent. By every rule in the personal finance playbook, David should have been broke, or at least stressed and behind. Instead, his net worth kept climbing faster than his friend's, and his friend was the one following every rule in the book to the letter. That contradiction stuck with David for a long time until he realized something simple. A lot of the advice that sounds responsible is actually optimized for feeling safe, not for building wealth. Those two goals overlap sometimes, but not nearly as often as people assume. And once David separated them, an entirely different set of habits started to make sense. Here are 10 of them, the ones that look careless or even a little irresponsible on paper, but quietly did more for David's bank account than any budgeting app or spreadsheet ever could. The first one always gets pushback. David doesn't rush to pay off his mortgage. His rate is locked in low, somewhere in the 3 to 4% range, and the market has historically returned closer to 9 or 10% a year over the long run. Every extra dollar he'd send to the bank early would be a dollar that stops compounding somewhere else. People pay off cheap debt early because it feels good, not because the math supports it. That feeling has a price tag, and most people never calculate it. Second, David spends freely on convenience. Grocery delivery, a cleaner every couple of weeks, paying someone else to handle the errands he dreads. On the surface, that looks lazy, like something people tell themselves to justify avoiding chores. But time isn't infinite, and the hours David gets back go straight into work that grows his income or into rest that keeps him from burning out completely. The real question is rarely asked out loud. What is an hour of your life actually worth once you strip away the guilt around spending to save it? If paying someone $40 buys back 3 hours and David uses those hours to think clearly, take care of himself, or push a side project forward that $40 didn't cost him anything, it paid for itself several times over. Third, David has stopped obsessing over small purchases. Coffee, lunch out, the odd impulse buy, none of it moves the needle for him. What actually changes a financial trajectory is a car payment that's $200 too high, insurance that hasn't been shopped around in years, or a raise someone never asked for. Fixating on $5 decisions gives the brain an illusion of control while the real leaks go unnoticed. David saves that mental energy for the 2 or 3 decisions a year that actually matter. Fourth, David buys tools and skills before he technically needs them. Courses, equipment, coaching, all before he feels ready. Waiting until you're certain you'll use something sounds responsible, but it also means you're always a step behind. Once money is on the line, David takes the things seriously. That pressure alone has pushed him to follow through on things he would have otherwise let slide for another year. Fifth, David doesn't budget every category down to the dollar. He tried the spreadsheet every purchase approach once and abandoned it after 3 weeks, feeling worse than when he started. Now he automates savings and investing the moment money comes in, sets a rough ceiling on the big categories like housing and transport, and stops worrying about the rest. A system that runs on its own beats a plan that depends on daily willpower. Sixth, David keeps more cash sitting idle than most advisors would recommend. Yes, it loses value to inflation, but it also means he's never had to sell investments during a downturn to cover an emergency, and he's been able to move fast on opportunities that required cash immediately. There's a quieter benefit too. Knowing you're financially covered for 6 months or more changes how you negotiate, which jobs you take, and which bad deals you're willing to walk away from. For David, that security has been worth more than the interest he's giving up. Seventh, if someone close to him needs a few $100s, David gives it without expecting it back. Lending money with strings attached turns you into a debt collector inside your own family. Giving it freely protects the relationship instead. Over the years, the trust that built up led to opportunities and support David never could have planned for. Eighth, David pays full price for things he uses constantly. A pair of boots that costs 5 times more, but lasts 8 times longer, is cheaper in the long run, not more expensive. The same logic applies to a mattress, a work chair, kitchen tools, Anything touched every single day. The habit isn't spending more, it's spending once and skipping the endless cycle of replacing things that fall apart. 9th, David says no to social plans more than people expect. Not because he doesn't value his friends, but because a lot of social spending isn't really connection. It's obligation with a price tag attached. The dinner he didn't want to go to, the trip he couldn't really afford, the drinks he agreed to out of guilt. Being selective about where he shows up hasn't cost David relationships. It's made the ones that matter noticeably stronger because he actually wants to be there when he says yes. And 10th, the one that ties everything else together. When David's income goes up, his spending barely moves. Maybe a small upgrade here and there, but the bulk of every raise goes straight into savings and investments. Most people do the opposite. Income rises, spending rises right along with it, and the gap between what they earn and what they keep never actually grows. That gap is the entire game. Someone earning $80,000 a year and keeping 30 of it is building more wealth than someone earning $200,000 and keeping 5. It was never about the size of the paycheck. It's about how much of it you actually hold on to. Now here's the part David wishes someone had told him earlier, because it's easy to hear a list like this and walk away thinking rules are meant to be broken. That's not quite it. Rules like pay off your debt fast, track every dollar, never lend money to family, those weren't written to trap anyone. They exist because they work for a lot of people, a lot of the time. The point isn't that the rules are wrong, it's that they were built for an average person in an average situation. And you are not an average, you're a specific person with a specific income, a specific mortgage rate, specific goals. Sometimes the smartest move isn't following a rule or breaking it completely, it's bending it slightly to fit your own numbers. That small adjustment made deliberately instead of automatically is usually where the real wealth building happens. So before copying anything you just heard, run it through your own situation first. Don't follow it blindly, and don't ignore it out of habit either. Actually work it out for yourself. That's really the difference between David and his friend. It was never about who followed more rules or fewer of them. It was about who actually understood the reasoning behind each one and who was willing to question it instead of repeating it out of habit. Most people never get past the first step. They hear a rule, they follow it, and they stop thinking. The people who end up ahead are usually the ones still asking why, long after everyone else stopped. Thanks for watching. If any of these habits made you rethink something you've always taken for granted about money, hit like and subscribe for more videos that go against the usual money advice, and don't forget to share this with someone who needs to hear it. I'll see you in the next one.